I think it's an interesting perspective to have the connection between the knowledge, power, and the creativity practices we find in different institutional settings. And what I'm trying to develop in my presentation is the notion of design and design thinking in different institutional fields, which I reconstruct as epistemic fields. So to have the educational democratic rationality in this field of the cultural sphere, to have the economical paradigm of design thinking, where we have a level of the material and artifacts creation, and a third one which relates to the self, which is the Sharma's approach of deep innovation and the transformation of mind, or the transformation of the self by consciousness. And so that we see that there's really different angles in this design discourse, which is not only a hype and not only a fashion, but as well a management myth. But more than this, it's not only a paradigm, but as well discourse of knowledge being placed in epistemic field and really different spheres of society, and with different representational power, and with different acceptance and acceptability in all those settings. So I think that's the message actually of my contribution, and I think it will be interesting to see what design thinking brings about in the future as a potential, which I definitely see in the field of praxis, to see what is the notion of ideas and bring about something new in our institutionalized world, where we definitely need openings, I think, in many fields, and but as well see which kind of rationality, and as well which disciplinary knowledge comes in here, which will be kind of a shaping force as well for the results and for what we bring about as society and as a culture. Yeah, change by design is the topic I would like to address today. So talking about the dispositives of creation and institutional fields of the new. And so I think we're all faced the changes. We are in dynamic, accelerating societies, and I think we all know that there's so many discourses on future, on innovation, on creativity, and the new, and there's so many words around, and so many different discourses. So and there's as well those topics quite a lot on the agenda of organizational change and organizational systems. So I think it's worthwhile to have a look at the scientific, the political, the economical, and as well the methodical programmatics and semantics of organizing shape, and the organizational discourses as well as the acceptability of change strategies, of settings, and of processes. So I would like to address the connection between knowledge, power, and practice, and I think this is a quite fruitful approach to the organization and the new. And so we see on the firmament of organizational change, the topic of design and design thinking coming along as a rising star, and I think that will be quite interesting to have a look at this knowledge of multi-stakeholder processes, of open innovation processes, and to ask what is the status of this knowledge. Is it the knowledge of just a method? Is it a myth? Is it a fashion? Or is it a paradigmatic shift? Or what is the status of this knowledge we're going to address in the presentation? So questioning what is the relevance of those different concepts of collective creation. I'm going to do this in 5 steps, and first give a little impression on innovation discourses, knowledge, cultures, talk about design thinking, fashion, myth, or paradigm, and then have a short look on discourse on design thinking in the academic sphere, and then look at different epistemic terrains of innovation by design, having a look at organizational learning for one setting, deep innovation the second, and design thinking is the third one. We're going to look at surfaces of a discourse and the strategies of epistemic organizing in institutional fields of the new. I happy to do the first presentation in the series of our three plenaries, because I think I'm addressing the method, the micro level, let's say. Our colleague Rudy Tippold will go to the meso level of institutional networks, and Michael Peters, who works a lot on those topics, of course, and is so much, you will have seen the books presented outside there, is much, will talk a lot as well on the global discourses of openness and open discourse as well. So I think that will be a very nice fit together, those three levels or the three perspectives we throw on the topic of organizing the new by design. So the status of the following remarks I'm going to make is that based on the discourse analytical perspective, I will present a heuristic model of institutional knowledge cultures. So it's not a realized discourse analysis as such already done, but it's a heuristic based on knowledge cultures as epistemic terrains of innovation knowledge, and to have this picture and to visualize this in the field. So I think that's quite interesting to see those fields of power and the potential of visualizing this situated knowledge in the field of power in those institutional fields. And I think that's interesting to follow on this method as well, and methodological approach for visualization in the future. So I'm trying to do something new as well regarding methodology and method and institutional research, by the way. But we'll see how it works out. If we have a look at innovation discourse and knowledge cultures, and the first we see there's, at the world level, and Michael is working a lot on this, as I mentioned already, we have those political, economical, programmatics, and within the whole range of neoliberal strategies, we see the whole discourse of global innovation, the information and digital economy, the knowledge economy, the creative economy as topics coming up in a row, and having this topic of knowledge as a crucial topic, of course, related to IT and to the information technologies, which have, of course, made a major shift, and Manuel Castells has been working a lot on this, of course. So the distribution of knowledge and the topic of knowledge as such becomes high relevance as a topic of limitation and control, if you think of the copyright and piracy of brands topics, but as well as topic of opening regarding the non-controllable knowledge spaces, and as well the topic on the discourse on common goods. So innovation and the search and the quest for the new and for the new market knowledge is kind of a battle cry, you could say so, of the global economy. The better, the quicker, be ahead of others. And we have this, Agnieszka has been working on this on the European field, and we know as well the European higher education discourse is quite present, I think, this strategy of being better than the others, being all this. I think the paradigm of winning and losing and being more ahead of others is in this field here in our programmatics quite strongly given, I think. And then we have the other space there, the social cultural studies, which of course address as well the social and societal conditions of human existence and self, and the notion of culture is here related to the global knowledge cultures, and as well there the question of power comes in, and addressing the topic of post-colonial discourses, questioning the established knowledge cultures, knowledge orders, power relations given in the Western dominance or whatever topics you might address here. There's a long, the postmodernity debates is coming in here, and addressing, I mentioned Castells already, with the network society and the open society, with Michael works on, and as well the strong discourse on global creativity in an affirmative sense, but as well in a critical sense, to really question traditional spaces where knowledge was assumed to be, and others should just listen or not have their own view. So the whole notion of learning society and creative class are topics from here, creative class, with Richard Florida's book. And so with this, as well as with those discourses coming in, the multi-perspectivity topics,
the question of values, the questions of patterns of a good life, and the question as well of the situatedness of knowledge in the network society. And you see this bubble here, the analysis of discourse looks at all those different discourses and tries to see the connection between creativity, rationalities, the knowledge discourses, the political programmatics and economical programmatics as well, and see what happens there in those institutional fields. And I think there's an interesting analytical perspective as well for organizational studies, of course. And then we have this bubble, the methodical discourses, where system strategies in the past have been topic for practitioner discourse. And people said, well, leave us alone with methods. I mean, why should we care about methods and academic discourses? That was felt something to be addressed by practitioners only. But of course, we have to take into account that there's a rising interest in innovation methods, that there is a rising interest to see what intentional strategies of change and innovation set into knowledge contexts as well and institutional worlds and logics. So there is a general shift within method discourses I would like to address and really to see what's going on in this field here of methodical discourses, where we talk about large group interventions, the design thinking, or deep innovation, or ecosystem innovation, as just to name the strong methodical discourses at present. And so if we have a look here, not to talk too long. If we have a look at the paradigm shift I just mentioned, and we can just contrast two basic patterns. I think it's, and it will be well known to you, and everybody who's interested in the field of organizational change and system approaches will be quite familiar with this basic differentiation of traditional approaches and system approaches, to see the traditional sequential pattern of the linear and chain model, or the trickle down, or the expert strategies, the only problem-oriented, the separation of different departments, and there's people who develop something, and then there's the people who bring it into the market, and all those ideas of expertise and working on and partial systems of a room, contrasted to the system approaches where the idea of simultaneousness of the network of system approaches come in, and to bring open process just to define what is the problem, not to already know what is the problem, but to just talk about what is it? How can we even define it, and do it in a discursive process there, and coming from not from knowing, but from not knowing, from omniscience and emergent knowledge. So if we have this basic paradigm shift in mind, which is quite interesting, I think, for the field, of course, of design thinking, we just have a look where this paradigm shift, this general paradigm shift, is it just everywhere? Would you say that it's just situated everywhere, or is there different assumption and cultures of innovation still prevalent in the institutional field, or the field of institutional cultures? And having a look at those bubbles here, then we have, if we look at innovation discourse, not at the global level, but at the meso level, of the level where people talk about innovation theory, then you see that there is approaches thinking about the, innovation as something, as an asset of something material, as something which is, as I said, the old paradigm, or the traditional, the classical approaches here, the closed shop approaches of there is some people, developers, and there's others who just are the recipients of the new, and the separation of production, diffusion, or the top-down and trickle-down and simple transfer models we have in the field of innovation research. There is approaches, quite strong tradition in this, of course. And in the middle we see this open innovation approach, which is basically this paradigm of the addressing the new by systems approaches, by open process, by integrating hybrid and different actors. And there in the middle you will see above there the single actor. There's approaches, you find them in management or in innovation theories and economy, the single actor whose ideas are brought up and diffused. And of course a whole debate on innovation and diffusion as a planned, as a steerable process and all this. And if we go more into this left field there, the knowledge approaches, then we are in social sciences, cultural studies approaches, thinking about the complexity of change and the network approach and all those independent actors who have to be brought together and who have to communicate and to really, in process of selection and adaptation of goals and measures, develop something new. So you see, we can differentiate different axes here of fields or spaces of knowledge of the new and the concepts, how the new comes about and the theories of innovation. So some traditional ones which are more in the hierarchical, control-oriented field over here, some which are more in the market entrepreneurial tradition, in the kind of the single actor and the plannable, steerable process of innovation, and more the cultural and sociological, if you wish, social sciences approaches here, which would go for complexity approaches to see the difficulty of change as well. Yeah, it's difficult to see from there. Oh, I'm sorry. I will try to manage. Or maybe you can sit there, that might be easier. So you can just move over there. That helps, hopefully. Yeah. So those basic patterns, those axes, show kind of field of power knowledge, trying to really represent those discourses in this field of power knowledge visually. And so we can see the definitory power, so the symbolic dimension, and the definitory power is really the up. You see, that's of course more in the economical field, in the economical theories as well, and the policy, governmental theories, the control theories here on the right side, and the different spheres are marked here, as I have shown already. So if we talk about this hype of open innovation, then the question is it a new myth, and how does it link and relate to myths of innovation? The whole different innovation discourses are kind of, you can really bundle them kind of in the synthetical concept of myth, and so you would have the myth of the locus of innovation. So the territory, the locus where you have to be, would be one pattern among those four patterns I'm briefly going to present. So the belief in locus, we can see this actually if we look at the educational policy and talk about lighthouse strategy, right? The Leuchtturmstrategie in our higher education policy strategies, and there's colleague Tippelt may not be here, but he comes from Munich. He must be happy. Munich is one of our excellence universities. So that's a myth of location, isn't it? So the locus, the lighthouse strategy would be there's one place to be. Same, if you think of Pisa, think of everybody wanted to go to Finland. And because everybody said Finland is the place. They know. Let's go to Finland. Everybody went to Finland, of course. I mean, that's what happened. That was a kind of a lighthouse, and Pisa was Finland. So that's the locus strategy and the locus of innovation. And if you think of that, and it's closer linked to the idea of territory and the idea of the place, thinking in Foucauldian perspectives now. But let's have a look on the one big idea myth, which is quite close actually to this field here of the locus of innovation, the territory dimension here. And the one big idea, if you think of one big ideas, like for example the online marketplace, eBay, everybody knows it, and there is this saying that there is nothing more powerful than an idea which time has come. So that was something like the one big idea is there, or think of the iPod. Everybody has to have the iPod. So there's the one big idea, and then it's a big diffusion effect there. It's impressive. And then there's very close to this as well, the myth of the heroic inventor. Of course, very closely linked here to the field of the market, entrepreneurial knowledge, the Schumpeterian entrepreneur, of course. So that's the creative structure, the creating something new. That's the economical genius of modernity, destroys and creates. And of course, nowadays we have the massification of entrepreneurship education. And following these policies, you would say that everybody should become a Mark Zuckerberg and invent Facebook, or as well Steve Jobs, or people like this, the big heroic inventors who really create or think like a genius. And the programmatic of this myth is everybody should become a genius, actually. And well, the last thing, which is not that symbolical power, again, unfortunately, cultural and social studies, and a little bit below regarding acceptance and the definitory power field. So we would say the non-organized, the spontaneous settings, and the myth of cultural context as spaces of emergence, and thinking of the spontaneous agglomerations of people, where you have those hippie settings, or we have those creative artists somewhere, and they move in some places in Soho, and then they get successful, and then the prices rise. Well, you know this, right? So this is the creative settings, which is a myth of the basic patterns, and we observe these social experiment spaces there, which lead to innovation and paradigm shift in innovation. So now we have a look at situated knowledge in fields of power. And as I said, we'll be not interested at all in this field at the right, in the hierarchical authority and control level here, because, of course, that's not going for creativity that much. There is the institutional rationality of a closed-shop innovation, of expert. We have examples of the Bologna process, which was not very open innovation process, I think. Well, others as well, I think. Or the OECD strategies for standardization, homogenization, large-scale assessments. So that's the reason why we have those numbers and those fields here, the statistics field. So large-scale assessments, or as well the concept of top-down strategies trickling down to the basic level. That's innovation approaches which are present, which are quite predominant in many fields of our societies and governance strategies as well. But we're not going to address this further on because it's not open innovation. More interesting for us is this field here between the entrepreneurial self and between the large group here, the social, cultural avant-garde, spontaneous order setting, I would say. Of course, in a methodized variant, we will see the large group interventions and other approaches there in the future now. So we're going to address this, and this field is expanding enormously in those open innovation concepts, and we will see, so what is the relationship between this economical field here and this cultural field? This will be interesting to look at, and what is the relevance of the notion of this idea from chaos to order, which in fact has a long tradition in social sciences, or as well as social experiments in the present, as well in educational science. If you look at Sigrid Bernfeld's social experiments in the 1920s, he wanted to create a democratic society within groups of children, and homeless children after the war. And well, they didn't allow him to work this out for very long, unfortunately. That was the right side of the pattern here. They didn't. Well, but there is the tradition. Or think of Levine's as well, development of educational fields approach, and as well the democratization notion and position here, participation in change and articulation in change and so on. I think we all are quite familiar with these kinds of settings of large group interventions as a participatory space of aesthetical processes where aesthetical transformation by dialogue and by communication takes place, and that's like all those education and democratical rationality of the agora concept of speaking out as reflecting and as developing in a collective setting, and as well, of course, in the learning organization, especially, that has been a close link. The learning organization discourse, think of Pete Zengi's fifth discipline, the system thinking approach, and large group interventions as rituals, if you wish, of this myth of organizing. So what is the basic patterns or the social methodology of this knowledge of educational, democratical knowledge sphere of open innovation, this sense that different people come together and develop something new. So the idea is from chaos to order in many of those approaches. If you think of open space or of future search or real-time strategic change or World Cafe or appreciative inquiry, just to name a few of those large group approaches, you would all see this chaos to order and openness approaches here as a practice of experience-based researching the new and as a process of narration and a process of collective self-creation as a community, if you wish. So the social as an informal setting, which organizes itself, and the concept of self-governing of this democratic community of responsibility is as notion coming along with this concept of innovation and open innovation. And as well, so the simultaneous change, everybody coming together, bringing in good ideas, and so we develop new ideas is the idea in these approaches of and working on desired futures, not on manageable futures, not on plannable or shapeable futures, but on desirable futures. To really talk about if we bring the whole system into the room, if we have a phase of divergent thinking and bringing up all those ideas, and then we develop common ground, and from there on we develop action plans and develop something out on those wicked problems we have identified, but institutionally in general not addressed. That's the problem. We all know that there is a climate crisis, for example, but who does address it institutionally as such as at a complex level? So there is those wicked problems, and they are addressed by those strategies of systemic change. And we can see, for example, the transition town movement really brings those network approaches on. So Cyrine Bernshausen will talk about the transition town movement in Forum 8, this conference. So obviously we have had a strong tradition and as well as strong diffusion of system interventions and large group change. And I have been doing in my habilitation actually the shift of this traveling knowledge, if you wish, from myth to diffusion to questioning it and to really normalizing this knowledge. And it has been a hype in the consultancy market in Germany in the 19th, and of course in international settings there is a tradition which is older, but this hype has been normalized. So now it's kind of the practice people do in this field, and now we have a new hype which I would like to address now, and I would like to question whether this hype is fashion. Is it a myth or is it a paradigm, or what is it, this new myth or this new hype of design and design thinking? So we can see that here is well, there could be, of course, much more. There is quite a lot of practitioner literature, quite enormous amount of practitioner literature actually on this, and that's one of the indicators that it's a hype. I mean, last 20 years, you see the increase in published literature, so that's the first indicator of there's a hype. You have, as well, there's an academic discourse. We're going to talk about this in a moment. So as well, there's academic discourse, so it's a nobilization, it's acceptance as well in academia here. And there is, as well, we have institutionalization processes, obviously, because there's schools, there's universities taking up those programs and developing programs like the Stanford D School, Design School Stanford, or the D School in Potsdam, and as well, Applied University of Munich is bringing up a master's program on design thinking. And interesting, I was quite impressed by the fact that there's a very strong link between university and economy there in those schools. So it's very, very closely connected to the private market, we will see. So, and the fourth indicator for there's a hype is that it's becoming not only a buzzword, but of course as well a market again for the whole field of consultancy agents. And that's a whole new market arising in this field. So that's the 4 indicators for a hype. Now, if we get some impressions just from the book we have here from Hasso Plattner, I don't know whether you're familiar with Hasso Plattner. He's a millionaire, or billionaire, in American he's a millionaire, trillionaire, billionaire. Well, it's really a lot of money, incredibly, and he's very rich. So he owns SAP. And so he's in informatics, and so a very rich man. So he can buy some universities, or he can produce some firms or so. And that's what he's doing. So he actually financed, I think there's a 45 million euro project here with a design school, Potsdam linked now to the Potsdam University as well. And he says in his book, Design Thinking, Innovation and Lernen, Ideenwelten öffnen, so learning innovation, opening idea worlds and of ideas. We can see the spatial installation, just a few glimpses here, spatial installation of design thinking settings at Potsdam D School. So the multi-perspectivity in mixed groups, you see the diversity groups here, you see the informality of settings, so not the classroom frontal, right? That would be the right side, but that's the informality, so many people just getting together, fluid interaction here, so the spontaneous order, see? The hybrid arrangements in space and time. You see the creative atmosphere. You see the material surfaces. Yeah, they're crumbling the paper, they're doing something, they really create models and so on. So the material surfaces of the creative process of design method. And as well, there's the process which is understood as an iterative process of different phases intermingling with each other. And to really bring those elements together, which is a process, and in a way it's linear, but in a way it wants to be more open and mixed as well. So, and if you look at this, when you can go back to the system approaches we have seen before, the large group interventions, where we have this understanding, what is there, it's quite light, right? You can see the first, it's understand, and then that's observe, and then that's get a point of view, and then to ideate, to prototype, and to test. That's like the phase we will see is going on here. And so the understanding, the hermeneutical understanding would be something our education philosopher Dewey would always go for and say, of course we first have to understand what is the situation. And then we would get some experience in and would see what is, and observe and analyze the situation. And then we would, based on this experience and the creative approach, we would ideate and prototype and test new alternatives. So that's, in fact, something which is not necessarily specific for design thinking, but and there is a tradition, but hyped as something very new. Anyway, there is the design thinking, the logic of the process comes along again as the divergent phase, and you may remember of the 60s where lateral thinking was a big debate and divergent thinking was a big debate. So De Bono's work of the different hats, he put on different hats of creativity, remember? All those hats, the criticizer and the hat of the ideator and all those different hats. So divergent processes, and then get it together to convergence phases and make choices and narrow down to development of something concrete. So that's as well something which is identical or something you would find as well in those other approaches as well. I think one major difference is not only that that large group interventions in general address the practitioner field and inter-institutional fields, if you talk about educational cooperation at regional level or whatever. Here the disciplinary field is addressed, and the wicked problems are addressed by disciplines and interdisciplinarity. I mean, that's a learning setting of the design school Potsdam, but so maybe in many other fields that may be different. But in general as well, the multi-stakeholder approaches will be relevant here. But what we see here, there is one blue spot, and this is besides engineering, design, film, education, humanities, business, and medicine, there's industry, and that's the blue dot here. So industry is obviously partner and target or the client or the customer of this processes as well. We can see in the picture that they have a special role here. So they're in this tradition of design thinking that's obviously quite situated in this field of the economical and the entrepreneurial field here. So if we have a look at this innovation approach of design thinking, then as well we see that desirability, of course, as I mentioned in large group intervention, is something you would assume is relevant for large group interventions as well. And here it is focused on a better future, but the criteria is not the better future of society necessarily, but at first hand to the fit of conformity if we think of desirability at that point, refers to sellability in the consumer market, products people would buy, or the viability refers primarily to the restrictions set up by legal frameworks. So what is the national legal frameworks for innovation or for products, and which products could be sold or not sold in which culture or in which nation or which legal setting? And so the feasibility would refer to the technical aspect. Can I do it? Can we produce a new motor? Can we produce this new car? Or what is the technology aspect here? So that's the focus of thinking, obviously, in this settings of IDEO. We can see the IDEO as one of the 10 biggest firms of marketing and innovation and idea creation, and which is extremely linked to the Stanford D School as well. There's personal identical, how would you say? It's identical persons, well, like this. Yeah, so that's great, strong link to this. And so you can see that we have here quite strong connection to this economic field of economy and economical action as well. If you see those pictures and change by design, transforming organization and inspiring innovation, that's the kind of the strategic marketing approaches here to really think of the incremental and radical, and of course the revolutionary creation approach is the most liked one as radical innovation and as the really basic and fundamental potential of change there, and not that much the quality development and adaptations and have the old fields, but really to go for the radical is of course the most liked one market strategy, but any other will be addressed as well. And if we see the design thinking still an anatomic model behind, this was an art project here, and they showed as well, in a way, with the brain, opening up the brain here. It's a connection to the neurodidactics discourse, strongly there, with the two hemispheres and the right and left side of the brain, and the ambidextry discourse in economics to see the both-handedness. And so the left hand was never that much accepted in school, you remember, when you had to learn to write the right hand. Well, nowadays that's better. But so the unorderedness of the mind as a source of creativity, and the openings of the brain, and all those topics of emotional intelligence here, opening the brain, or as well the concept of openness as something crucial for opening the brain up, to really open up these limitations. So this is what design thinking wants to bring about. And just to have some short quotes here of the knowledge base of design thinking, we see that there's the set of principles that help us to manage and create in the material world. It values creativity as much as analysis, and it's focused on the essence of the thought process that arises from the craft of traditional schools of design. So the concept of art will become relevant here as well. So if we have some other quotes on the question of whether it's fashion, myth, or paradigm, so of course there's the big demand topic here that Stanford School of Design says we believe that great innovators and leaders need to be great design thinkers. So the strong connection of leadership and the innovator and remember the heroic inventor, the myth, yeah, that's here. And the generalized methodology and general problem solvers, so really expansion as well of this concept towards, say that we solve any problem of the world. So to make fundamental improvements to our world. So in the Kyoto Design Declaration, they say it can deliver economic, ecological, social, and cultural benefits to all people, improve our quality of life, and create optimism about the future and individual and shared happiness. So we see that's kind of this idea of the myth of generally problem-solving technology as a generalized approach for any improvement. And Tim Brown, one of the IDEO members there, says think bigger and to really think the big picture here, not just a small item, and go for the Schumpeterian entrepreneurial self here. So if we think of whether it's fashion or myth, some two quotes to close with this aspect here. This you can see the clear trend in many professions to see the work as designing, as Dorst says. So note that the naming and the rewording comes on already. So that managers now design company policies, and in education teachers now design a curriculum. And just saying that a profession is like design implies that its problems are about as unstructured and difficult as they can be. So listening something to design is not a solution, it's just a way to rephrase the problem in even wider terms. And design thinking as myth, as Donald Norman puts it, so long live the phrase design thinking, so it's really ironizing now here. It will help in the transformation of design from the world of form and style to that of function and structure. It will help spread the word that designers can add value to almost any problem, from healthcare to pollution, from business strategy and company organization. With this transformation takes place, the term can be put away to die a natural death. Meanwhile, exploit the myth. Yeah, so we have got some few impressions on the question of fashion, myth, or paradigm of the design thinking discourse. And as I said, we have as well the academic discourse. I'm mentioning this very briefly, only just to give you an idea that we have this design discourse as well in academia. And so you could interpret this as a nobilization of design, or maybe there's other sources as well to address seriously, of course. I'm very sure about this. Castells as well says, actually, this is a theoretical paradigm of the network society. So we have it here in the left and the social and cultural studies field, of the theoretical paradigm of the network society as a notion of design. Or we have in management studies, Peter Drucker here and Becker in the German debate following this Drucker's approach here on the next society and saying that's kind of the basic pattern. And we really have to link the system theory approach and the level of communications. As Becker says, then design is the grammar of projects of control. And sees it as an alternative term to the term of translations, as actor network theory puts it. Of course, I can't go too deep into this now at this point in time because we're going to follow on to other notions as well of design, but I just wanted to show that there's, in fact, the design term is understood as a relay between the micro and the macro phenomena as an interface. Yeah, so this is the interface topic, the interface discipline here, and even as an own discipline concept, as a third culture between the artifactual and the contextual as transdiscipline, and as a practice of not knowing, actually. So, and if you look at this left field over there, the mindfulness discourse, we have found as well quite a strong mindfulness discourse in the trend reports and trend surveys to say that's the newest trend, go for mindfulness. And there's Wyke and Sutcliffe in 2003 have been talking about the mindfulness approach already as a structural connection between communication and consciousness. So to really link the social and the mental attention. Well, and just to mention as well the mode Sue science, which Novotny and others have been developing, Peter Scott, Michael Gibbons, as the management of heterogeneity as well of academic developmental and research processes. Well, I think we can see already that there is kind of a lot of a debate as well in academic debates here. We have, at the same time, we have the vagueness of the concept and term of design here. And given this vagueness and given these different fields, I just wanted to show again and just go to the third epistemic field of organizing design, because two we have seen already. We have been there in the cultural sphere of the spontaneous orders and the methodized approaches and large group interventions as a social complexity and social methodology approach, and with an educational democratic rationality. We have seen now the entrepreneurial self here with the design technology and the arts crafting material rationality in the design discourse in this industry related topics here. And we're going to address a third one. As I mentioned, Wyke and Sutcliffe's approach of mindfulness. We would go now for the quality of communication, and that's Otto Scharmer's approach when going for the self, going for the ecosystem innovation and the ecology of mind, which relates to Bateson, of course. You know, the ecology of mind is Bateson, system theory of Bateson, and so of the self, and calls this approach a deep innovation approach, following to the source and the who is the actor, who is the one who speaks in those heterogeneous, in those complex processes of network management, network development. And so, actually this slide is missing for me because my computer crashed this morning, but anyway, no problem. So here's the theory U, leading in front of blank canvas. So theory U is the approach Otto Scharmer suggests. So the U, of course, is the you, I mean, the me, self, right? The self, the you and the me. Leading in front of blank canvas relates to, you find here this picture of, many of you will know, which is Beuys, artist Beuys, well known in the 17 as an artist of fluxus and of democratization of art. And he said, anybody is an artist. Remember this, right? And he had those projects of, we're not going to put anything in the museum, we're really going outside and we're planting 7,000 oaks, or we're going to the public sphere, and art as a project of democratization. And his concept and project always was to say, we have to make the social structures liquid. We have to make it, the communication, which is always stuck in all those institutionalized settings, we have to make it liquid. We have to get it fluent in some way. The Fluxus movement tried to bring movement into structure and into settings. So they, that's what he's thinking about, to really bring the liquid in. And Sharma relates and connects, so that's something with your colleague Sesh will talk about the artistic as well, and you as well will work on this, right? That's wonderful. So we have so nice contributions at the conference on those topics here, just have to mention. So we're going to see that approach does not address the result, the what level. So what is being produced, what is being the effect, the product of our innovation processes. It's not addressing the how at the level of the process of painting or at the process of socially in a dialogue process develop things, but it refers to the who, to the source of who I am when I'm speaking. And so that's, and the blank canvas, so really the white canvas before a painter paints or before a person speaks. It's the notion coming really from this deep innovation concept, coming really from as well Buddhist traditions here. So we have your colleague here coming in from Bhutan, so that's, there's a strong connection there, I think, to this way of thinking. So we're really happy to have you here. Dari Thingley will be speaking on the happiness programs at the university. And all those thinking of this self-reflexivity as a meditation practice is something which Otto Scharmer suggests. And so really the blank canvas, the white as the non-central, the non-outer world, to really have the concentration and meditation to the self. And as William O'Brien puts it, the success of an intervention depends on the interior condition of the intervener. So that's the who I am when I'm speaking, and which kind of future do I bring about in the moment of speaking. So it's really kind of a path approach here, path creation or path reproduction at the micro level of society. So really, how do we bring about communications in social settings is the question which is raised by the theory U and by Otto Scharmer here. So he says there's 4 levels of responding to change, which we mostly do in our organizations as quick fixes, just to manage very quickly, and then the problem is hopefully gone, but in general it's not, of course. And the redesigning policies is, so let's reorganize structures and let's reorganize processes, and then it will be okay, so it should be good then. And that's and the 3rd level to really go into the value and belief system, which cultural approaches would go for, and say, let's reflect on the foundations here of values and beliefs. And he says there's a 4th level we should address. This is the source of our energy. So what is really energizing, what gives hope, or what gives health, or what gives, in this sense, viability of inspiration and will, and to see where's the source of commitment and energy. So this is the level he wants to address with his approach. And he says there's different levels of reflexivity or non-reflexivity. At the first level, normally we are not really reflexive, actually, in the daily life. We just act, and the habitual dispositions or whatever you just do, and we not always reflect. Or we are reflexive after acting. We think, oh, that wasn't really a good idea. Oh, what a bad thing to do. Yeah. But so it's after doing. And he says we should reflect in the same time as we act, we can reflect as well. So it's kind of an awareness practice he's suggesting. not go for downloading and doing as you normally act, not going for debates, and but going for the transformative dimensions. He says the first one, the downloading and debate, is something which is reproductive, which is not transformative that much, and the tool others, the dialogue and presenting the generative flow in collective settings, would be a transformative approach, and would create, by having those different attentional structures, bring about obviously different results. So this is not related to objects and things, it's not, but it's related to the quality of listening and co-creation in any social setting. So this is the approach of social ecologies of innovation and an ecosystem innovation approach, where we said it's stepping out of criticism, of judgment, and of fear. And he says that's the three enemies of any innovation or transformation: is skepticism, the criticism. Well, skepticism is always good, I think. Criticism, judgment, and fear is difficult. And if we think of network settings, of multi-professional settings where you have bureaucracy, market, and cultural actors together, and they have to work out network solutions, comes clear that reflection and reflexivity is relevant in order to step over the traditional mindsets, institutionalized sets of thinking as well. So he says we need an open mind, an open heart, an open will, which is an educational project, in fact, I definitely, I think. And as well, we know this heart, head, and hand concept of Fröbel already. So, but it's not related to the therapeutic or meditation or a purely spiritual approach here, but he addresses the conditions of our economy and society as a whole. And so he claims to do a social theory. It's not just a method he claims to do, but he says it's really social theory, and it's we have the whole concept of society, but based on the micro level of the practices of creation of the future by creating communication. So criticizing capitalism 2.0, as he names it, as a neoliberal project and a global crisis, he says it only supports OECD countries and leaves the rest of the world behind. So we have really the widening of the gap worldwide. That's he says that we can't go on from this. So we see there's an ethical position here as well, strongly connected to an ethical criticism. And he says we need a concept of capitalism 3.0 as a conscious, a sustainable, an inclusive, a globally oriented economy based on a different pattern of consciousness. He says this consciousness is characterized by a cooperating, multi-perspective intelligence and collective action. And so it's not revolution or evolution. He says it's an update, like a computer system update. Well, update of modes of capitalism, and says transforming capitalism from within was his dissertation. So now we're not going through this, don't worry. Just to see very briefly that he suggests a new paradigm in the, I think I have a pointer. I should have. See, that's wonderful. See, he says collective action from common attention and will, and besides all those crises which have to be addressed, like climate, energy, poverty, water, all those topics we know, leadership. And we need, especially if we talk about leadership, the co-creation and cross-sector innovation. And that is a topic of awareness, and it's not just a topic of material, different practices and methods, but it's a question of deepening democracy and from this concept. Now, I'm coming to conclusions now, because I'm having been presenting 3 different social or epistemic fields of design and design thinking, and I'm just going through them for remember what we have been talking about for the last few minutes. So we have been in touch with the large group interventions culture of the knowledge culture of design, which was the social complexity in system. We're talking about having the whole system in the room. It's a system-oriented view here. And so that takes place in the bring the system together in one space. And the knowledge of newness is related to organizational learning, as we have had it with Pete Zengi's organizational learning system thinking approach, a learning organization. And there is language, communication, vision as crucial topics there, and metaphors and narration, of course, very important as what is addressed in those processes. And who is there? That's the individual and collective, and it's a social body, if you wish, who's been addressed here as the actor of the new, and addressing difference in normative orders, and as heterogeneity as being the basic, multi-perspectivity as basic for idea gathering. And the how would be, it's a relational, it's because the system has to be webbed, has to be connected, has to be brought together. And so by the mode of social inquiry, which we know as well by the Socratian dialogue, as well we know it by the social inquiry concept of Dewey, where the experience and problem-based inquiry and learning process has been done, and processes which are representing and articulating and visioning performative processes as well, and inscenating approaches. So the strategy of the new we can find here is the agora, is the Greek model of the democracy as the place and as the public speaking of the developing desired futures, a democratical educational rationality in this field of the new. And we have seen the second one, which was the economical sphere here, with the design thinking in this complexity of objects and surfaces as a factual reflexivity and creativity. We have seen those innovation labs here in industry. We have seen that it's a topic of shaping products from ideas to innovation, and it's on the level of structures and processes, and that multi-perspectivity and strategic diversity management are innovation strategies there in the field of product creation and design. And so this is the recombination approach and materialist physical innovation discourse, you can claim this. And the third one we have seen is the complexity of the self. So we come in, and the theory you're addressing the complexity of the higher self, as Sharma names it. So from the small self of the daily life, which is not reflexive, to the higher self of the ethical, aesthetical, transcendent subject of deep innovation and self-reflexivity, which is aware of their own practices and any moment and any time, any place. And what is the inner point from where we listen, from where we speak, linked to this ecological paradigm of consciousness and the ecology of mind and deep innovation. So that's the aesthetical and creative and ethical process here, and philosophical transcendence approach. So we're having our field here of the power field of definitory power and the different concepts here in the cultural avant-garde, the market and the hierarchical field, and we have seen those different myths. If you remember, the locus of innovation, the myth of the one big idea, the myth of the heroic inventor, and the enabling and non-regulated settings. And now what have we seen now? We see that there's a myth of the mega myth, if you wish, because it's the really integrating everything to the mega myth and to the myth of organizing the new, or the whole integration of the others as a generalized inventor, because everybody is the inventor now, the ubiquitous invention, because it takes place everywhere, and innovation, and the multiplicity of ideas. It's not one idea, but the multiplicity of ideas in methodized and non-regulated settings. So this myth of enabling spontaneous orders generalizes very strongly, very broadly into the market. And I think it will be interesting and relevant as well to reflect which logic will become dominant on which logic, and I think that will be something to follow on and to research as well, the logic of educational processes or large group interventions, or will there be a shift in those power dynamics towards economical logics going on here, or claiming the truth, as well at the level of professionals and as well of institutions. So who will be asked to design and follow on those processes? Maybe education will not be the partner for this in the future. Could be. So we should be aware. Shifting towards this general claim of problem solving of any problem now we have, maybe with this shift into the economical mode that might marginalize educational knowledge and profession, and that might imply a specific mode of creative knowledge creation for the market. So as we have seen those three epistemic spaces and epistemic cultures of design, they're not only different patterns, but as well epistemic, institutional, and method cultures, which are obviously as well contested terrains in the future of innovation and organizing the new. And just the last sentence, which will be, in fact, coming back to the Foucauldian works of the Panopticon, and we can see that it's kind of the conversion of the gaze we can observe here, which is this old picture of Foucault here, which many of you will be familiar with the Panopticon as a dispositive of normalizing society and organizing everybody around this norm and the constant vigilation by this tower in the middle and tower of control, and which is very efficient and effective strategy of power because everybody feels observed and then will act already. I mean, it's the same with the red lamps at the crossing, I think. You know already there might be the police there, and then you don't drive too fast. So that's normalization. So that shifts, the conversion of the gaze shifts now into the gaze of multi-perspectivity and reflexivity. So it's the same setting, but the conversion of the gaze just the other way around now. Now you have multi-perspectivity and reflexivity from every angle to the multi-perspectivity of actors. And we have seen to the object world and this material discourse here. The gaze centered on the system view, so from any angle of multi-perspectivity here, the system, the gaze is not now here from the center towards all those fields here, but it comes from any angle into the center, which may be the material, which may be the system, or which may be the self. And so we have the creative self, where the deviance and the going nuts, maybe. We had this with the fields when you mentioned this. So deviance becomes the norm of how organizing the new should happen. So thank you very much for your attention, and I hope it has been interesting for you. Thank you.